Question. But what is an attack by dark forces? How do you discern it from any other negative feeling or mental illness that just about everyone is having? And so the background for the question is that I have several videos where I talk about many spiritual people come to a point where they realize that they are being attacked by dark forces. And what I mean with dark forces is, I've explained in several videos, there are 4 levels of the material world, depending on their vibration, the level of the energy. There's the identity realm, the mental, the emotional, and the physical. And we have 4 levels of the mind. So there are certain beings in the emotional realm that are very selfish, self-centered, and they are seeking to influence human beings. For one reason is to steal our energy so they can sustain themselves. So many people have vulnerabilities in their emotional bodies that these dark beings can exploit to steal people's energy or to influence people's state of mind. And so they will attack us through our emotions, through our emotional vulnerabilities, or even also there are some in the mental realm. So, the question says, how do you discern an attack by dark forces from any other negative feeling or mental illness that just about everyone is having? Yeah, but ask yourself the question, why is just about everyone having this negative feeling or mental illness? Because just about everybody is being attacked by dark forces. It's just a stunning reality of life. And it's equally stunning that we grow up knowing nothing about it, because we have a society which is so trapped in the scientific materialism that they have to deny any kind of dark forces. Even though they know about energy, even though many mental health care practitioners have seen that some people can get literally obsessed by some kind of force that causes them to act in completely irrational ways. But because of materialism, we can't acknowledge that there are unseen parts of the world we're living in, the emotional, mental, identity realms, that are affecting our minds. Because they have to say that, the mind is produced by the physical brain, so there can't be anything to the mind that isn't physical. That's the total lie that we have all been brought up with. And spiritual people, of course, we realize this, and we realize there is more to understand. And so, it's again this, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Did you have a vulnerability in your emotional body that caused you to be attacked by dark forces? But now the attack has multiplied so that you have a greater vulnerability, so you're even more attacked. What started it? What started it all? Well, it all started with, what started it all? Because I have in some of my avatar videos, I have a playlist about avatars. And there I talk that many of us came to Earth and we were exposed to this very aggressive physical attack by what I call dark forces, fallen beings. And so you could say that we were actually innocent life streams when we came. We were exposed to this attack, and in reacting to this attack, we created what I call these subconscious selves. And once we had the subconscious self, we had a certain vulnerability in our emotional and mental and identity bodies. And the dark forces can then exploit that vulnerability to attack us even more and create more disturbance and upheaval. Basically, this is what has happened on Earth. I explained in my video about how the world was created. There was a certain point where these dark forces were allowed to come to Earth, and they have attacked everybody and tried to get everybody to become vulnerable to continued attacks. I mean, you see how there are parts of the world where people are constantly in conflict with each other. Two groups of people. For hundreds, if not thousands of years, they've been in conflict. And this is very much driven by an attack by dark forces who are attacking these people to get them in such an agitated state of mind that they attack each other, have conflicts with each other, because it, among other things, allows the dark forces to steal their energy. That's why there's war in the world. It's one of the reasons there's war in the world. Addictions, again, dark forces can steal people's energies. So you could say that we have a state of mind today where, or a state today on Earth, where the vast majority of people are vulnerable and are being, on a regular basis, attacked by dark forces to various degrees, you know. You know, you could really say, I mean, you have to be careful. We're walking a delicate balance here, right? Because you can say, originally, and this is what I again explained in my Avatar videos, originally we were attacked by the dark forces, and we reacted to it. But that doesn't mean we are powerless, because we can rise above our reaction. We can rise above these subconscious selves. We can free ourselves from it, so we become invulnerable to the attack by dark forces. We basically become transparent to them. As Jesus explained it 2,000 years ago, he said, "The prince of this world cometh and has nothing in me." And what he meant was that the dark forces didn't have any vulnerability in his energy field for lower bodies that they could use to attack him, because whatever they sent at him would just pass right through. The Buddha talked about non-attachment and demonstrated that when he was attacked by the demons of Mara, who tried to get him to react. And so we can walk the spiritual path, and that's part of walking this, what walking the path is about, to come to a point where we are not vulnerable to the dark forces. But on the other hand, we have to also be realistic and say that most people do not know about the spiritual path. They do not know about dark forces. You know, basically, if you want to look at this, you can say, go back a couple of hundred years. People would, on a regular basis around the world, develop cholera and die. It was considered a fatal disease. Once you got cholera, you would die. Why? Because they didn't know there was something called bacteria that could infect their drinking water, so they would get cholera. Once they discovered bacteria, they realized, oh, we can test the water, see if there's bacteria in it, we can purify the water, and we can avoid the disease. Well, today we're in the same situation. We haven't discovered dark forces in the emotional, mental, identity realms. Therefore, we are just as vulnerable to the disease as people were before they knew about cholera bacteria. So what I'm saying is that you don't need to really, I mean, how do you discern an attack by dark forces from other negative feelings or mental illness? You don't need to discern. You can just assume that whatever people experience, if it's a mental illness or depression or whatever, this is an attack by dark forces. I'm sorry. And this means that you can take the necessary precautions if you're open to this, if you're spiritually open. I have, in my spiritual toolbox playlist, I talk about how we can invoke spiritual light from your ascended masters for protection and for us to be cut free from the dark forces. We can invoke energy to transmute a fear-based energy in our emotional body, for example, that they are using to pull on us. But I also explain that in the longer run, we need to resolve the psychology that makes us vulnerable, that makes us react to these dark forces. Because they can only attack us if there's something in us that causes us to react. And so if you're open to this, then there are tools you can use. You can get an immediate short-term relief by invoking light, but in the long term you need to resolve the psychology. And you know, you could say, does that mean that every condition people have is caused by dark forces? No, I'm not saying it's caused by dark forces, but it doesn't really matter, because the way to get beyond it is the same. You invoke light to protect yourself, and you work on resolving these subconscious selves, and there comes a point where you don't have the internal divisions that cause conflict in your own mind and make you vulnerable to the dark forces. So you can basically say, yeah, it all starts with an internal division, but once there is an internal division, you can make sure that the dark forces will exploit it and make it worse. You can make absolutely sure, especially for spiritual people who have a potential to manifest a higher level of consciousness, because the dark forces see it as a threat, and they will target you. And they may have been targeting you for lifetimes. So I'm not trying to paint a dark picture here. For me, learning about dark forces was not something scary. It was not something that caused fear. It was something that caused great hope and realism. Oh, I can do something about it. And I've proven to myself how, using these tools given by the Ascended Masters, I've been able to free myself from this influence that I very much felt when I was a child. Because I can look back and I was very burdened by these attacks by dark forces, and many other spiritual people I met have experienced the same. And it's because we have the potential to manifest a higher state of consciousness, and the dark forces want to derail us from doing that and fulfilling our life plan and making a positive contribution to the planet.